G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Tuesday the 13th of March. So on the daily chart, we're really starting to get a bit of a move to the upside again. We're starting to break and make new highs on the daily, so look like we might see some of this grind starting to come back in the market, and that's certainly what happened up until 2-3 o'clock in this particular day. I mean, on this day, there was FOMC announcement, which is the major US interest announcement, which happens about eight times a year. So what tends to happen these kind of days is the market will go quite flat, just waiting for the announcement to come out, and then all of a sudden it'll take off once they decide what they do after the announcement. And that's what happened. It did grind up, so you can see here we pushed down a little bit, and then all of a sudden we started heading to the upside. I mean, the gap was down here, so there was a possibility it might start to sell off and head towards that gap, but in the end it didn't happen. We pushed up and just kept on pushing up, making high highs. This stage here, we got a 5-minute fade, so look to buy in these particular areas. So not a bad area as far as potential for the market to push up. That's for sure. We had all the other markets pushing up. It was breaking highs. Back here, you can see there's a little bit of support once it did break up past that area. Just the entry, however, is not the best. It's only about a 3-tick pullback from that swing high there. So if you were to take a trade there, even though it did work quite well, the chance of it just popping down a little bit and taking your stop out then going is quite high. So normally you want at least a 6 to 8 tick pullback from that swing high area there. But overall, still an area that definitely the market could head up from. It pushed up higher, and as we're approaching lunch now, we're looking for a bit of a pullback here. And the pullback was very shallow. Then again, it pushed up high, and you can see all the predictors as they're crossing back. It's basically the peak of the pullback, and then pushing up again. So definitely a buyer's market. Just all these pullbacks were quite shallow and very tough to take on. You want to keep consistent with your trading plan, that's for sure, and you're looking for decent pullbacks. So on this particular day, there's not a lot you can do but just watch the market grind up. You can see then we started the pullback again. So in a normal market, FOMC aside for a second, as we're pulling back here, this is about the third pullback of the day. So obviously the market's getting extended. It gets tougher and tougher to take the long side. However, there still wasn't much saying that it couldn't go up from here, as long as you're still seeing the buyers push higher, so encourage new buyers, and when they pull back, they're not breaking down through support levels. Okay, and that means the buyers are still around. You want to see that on all the markets. So that's the thing you look for, even if it's a second or third pullback. You just want to make sure that there's still enough encouragement there for the buyers. In this particular case, there certainly was, even though it is a bit extended. However, you've got to kind of chuck all that information out the window as soon as this 2:15 mark arrives. That's the FOMC, and you can see it got quite crazy, so you've got to really sit back for half an hour and let it take on the information, digest it, and decide what it wants to do with it. It looked like it wanted to push down. We got all of a sudden this push down, and we're breaking through some support levels, and it looked like the market wanted to head south, and then all of a sudden, boom, straight to the upside, and away it went, just shooting up and finished very high for the day, and you can see we're up approaching those 1400 levels. So as far as looking into the future, 1400 is definitely a level the market will want to go up and test, so it's potential that we could be heading that way. But overall, a day that limited opportunities, even though we saw that movement in the afternoon. It's very news driven and can be tough to take advantage of. Just showing the 1-minute charts, again, so that little bit of a push down, then we pushed up, broke through this PowerPoint. I mean, it's very hard to know whether this one was going to hold or fade through. You're kind of just waiting for more of a pullback and then looking for the upper PowerPoint. So you're best off at maybe approaching it, then pulling back, and then going again and seeing all the other markets supporting the upside. And that's one that you want to look to fade. This type of one here, you just don't know at what stage it's going to pull back, and all it takes is a 5-tick pullback, and you're going to be stopped out. So in hindsight, even though it looks good, you definitely want to see pullbacks and things like that before you start taking on those sort of areas. Pushed up to this area here. This is where we got the 5-minute fade came up. So you can see there next to no of a pullback. It's very much, if you're looking at it live, you can see it kind of looks sideways, and even though in hindsight it worked quite well, if you're watching this market live, it's a very difficult one to take. Pushed up to this PowerPoint here, and then from there very sideways. This is leading up to the 2:15 news announcement. You can see sideways, 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 and then boom, crazy market action, then pushing up. So I guess the only thing is once it kind of got through the information, you could see it had decided on a direction, looking at potentially power fading some of these areas, but you definitely want to see support from other markets, and like I said before, you want a bit of a pullback and then something to the upside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power points all hit the upside, but still difficult to get on those when the market's moving quite quickly, and you just don't know how much of this is actually news driven. I prefer to trade consistent solid markets that's based on real information as opposed to something that's specifically news driven. So personally, these kind of ones, they're best to kind of sit on the sideline and just watch what they want to do, and then see what happens from there. But like I said, potentially this market could push up to 1400, but wait and see. So speak to you guys soon.